only one chip in the prop over here. Yeah, very important to keep all the straps away when you start it, because everything will get sucked back into the prop, including your cap, because the cap will go straight through and get chopped up as well. I'd probably tighten that a little bit more when they put the netting back on, because even if it's a bit loose, as you fly, this gets sucked back and it might go into the prop. You can see it's on a clutch, so while the engine's standing still, you can freewheel the prop, which is quite nice while you're ground handling, because you don't have a prop that's spinning. What you need to do when you start it is to get the fuel up into the carb. So it's quite important to just depress the diaphragm via the blue cable Dave's doing, and at the same time blow into the separate fuel line, which will bring fuel from the tank up into the carb. The reason that you're pressing on the diaphragm via that blue wire is that the pop-off pressure is quite high, and the fuel can't get past it. So all you're doing is you're depressing it, and it just allows it up. There we are. You can see fuel coming out the carb, which will mean that it's flooded, and it might take a few pulls to start it, but that's a sure sign that you've got fuel from the tank up into the carb. When you're starting, very important to keep everybody away from the prop, and your finger near the kill switch button, that if anything does that, you take off, you can kill it. These two lugs will stay onto the ring, and these will come out. The ring itself is sectionalized, and you'll see various sections that pull out, and it will simply fold up. So you just got to unfold it, and like a jigsaw puzzle, you'll get it back together again. So in other words, as we're looking at the harness, from the left hand side it will be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, but most of the poles will fit each other. You'll see that there's a slight bend in these. The reason Dave did that is he bent it so his frame can take a much longer prop should you need to try and get more thrust out of it, for example a 1m31. In this back, you'll find that the extension, this extension is left on the tube. The other extension on the other side is left on the frame. So it can only go on one way. You can't mix it up. Alright, take the harness off and the prop off, and that's it. That's your fired paraglider packed up. Put your harness on. There's 4 attachment points. It has to be secured halfway down, has to be secured at the top, and back at the bottom again. And there's realistically another attachment point, which is the sidebars. Remember, with your harness, you've got 2 clip-in points at the top. You've got a second and a third clip-in point halfway down, and you've got the stabilizer bars that release via a little knob over there. Your glider will clip into here, and remember, this is now your ground handling straps. In other words, when you're on the ground, all the weight of the motor will be taken up on this, and this strap, which is your glider clip-in point, won't be pressing onto your shoulder. Your ground handling straps come from the top, they carry on down, and they'll loop around the bottom here. This will be detached when you get it, so you'll just have to re-thread it through over there. Then it's your ground handling straps that are undone last. These are your ground handling straps, so remember they come through the harness back up onto the shoulder straps. They're just going to be tied around the motor, and you can undo them later. It'll come through the side here, up, and it will clip into there, those ground handling straps. And remember, your glider clips in separately. Something else of interest is this is your clip-in point for your glider. You do have another clip-in point here. Alright, so in other words, the lie of your motor, when you're sitting in it and you're hanging, the prop should be vertical or about 12 degrees back from the vertical. If, however, it's lying like that, alright, you need to clip in further up the harness to bring the lie of the motor down. So you are already in the top clip-in point. You can alter it more by actually undoing the strap at the top here and actually tightening it. If you find, which I don't think you will, that you are too upright, okay, you can clip in further down, but that would only be if you're a very heavy pilot. So the lighter pilots don't have that problem. So you do have two clip-in points that you can alter the lie of the propeller. You need to clip in higher, so if you do need to adjust it even more, you'll have to adjust it at the top here. Using fully synthetic oil on this?
Yes. No.
What mix do you use? 40:1?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a 40:1 mix, and fully synthetic oil has been used, but it's not to say you can't use normal two-stroke oil, and some people use it between a 30 and a 40. It's always a good idea to have as many safety straps as possible. Even the air filter has a safety strap attaching it to the frame, that if it ever comes loose it doesn't go back into your prop. Over here is your high and low speed screws. They set relatively well for sea level, but if you find on acceleration it tends to die, or you're not getting the revs, you'll adjust those. I would think the settings on the low speed here is anywhere between a quarter and a half. Is that right, Dave?
No.
And your high speed probably is around about 3/4 out. Remember, that's where you're going to depress the diaphragm when you start to blow into here to bring the fuel from the tank up into the carb. So that's your powered paraglider. Your propeller bolts, your machine, your netting and your cage, your harness, propeller, and you're just missing a wing and a pilot.